If you're a woman in your mid-30s or above and you haven't hit full menopause yet, this video is for you. Regardless of symptoms, 100% of us will experience this hormonal decline, which affects your body in ways you probably don't even realize. What I've learned over the past year as I've immersed myself in this topic has been really eye-opening, and I wish I knew these things way earlier than I did. I've been wanting to tackle this topic for a while, but I wasn't sure if it fit in with my beauty focused channel. Then I thought the majority of my demographic falls in this age group, and the mission of my channel from the start has been everyday beauty made easy, but also helping you feel better about yourself and making better buying decisions. And I feel like this perimenopause topic falls in the helping you feel better about yourself category. And these topics need to be talked about more because every single woman on the planet goes through them. They're very natural life phases, but they remain wildly misunderstood by women and healthcare providers. There's a lot of confusion out there. I mean, we only recently learned that women were rarely included in clinical trials prior to 1993. So it's not surprising that there is not much data out there around menopause. We also recently learned that some major data around it is incorrect, but a lot of people are still going by that incorrect information. And these have been kind of taboo topics until recently. The generations before us never really talked about them. Now, before we get into it, I am not a professional. I research things to the nth degree when I find topics intriguing. I have immersed myself in this for what seems like a really long time now. I've gone down several rabbit holes. I probably could have had at least 40 bullet points in this video. Let me know as we go through the video in the comments if you want me to do a part 2, but I was able to narrow this down to the 10 things I wish I knew about perimenopause before I did. I mean, I turned 50 this year, which is almost the age of full menopause, and I wish I had known these things 10 to 15 years ago, which is why I'm doing this video. I'm also not telling you what to do. I'm not giving you medical advice. All of this information is available to the public. I researched it, compiled it, and I'm sharing what works for me, my thoughts, my opinions. I encourage you to do your own research, form your own thoughts, your opinions. This information is too important not to share. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you're new, and let's get into it. This first one is the only one with two parts to it. I had to include them both here because they're very intertwined, and I had to lead off with this one. So I did not know that perimenopause can happen sooner and last longer than you think. I feel like most people don't realize how soon it can start. Like many people, I associated menopause with hot flashes and no more periods. I didn't realize that the average age was 51 to 52, or that it could even occur in your 40s. It is when you've gone a full year without a period. After that, you're postmenopausal. But more importantly, I didn't realize that perimenopause, the transition leading up to menopause, could last a full decade or more, with estrogen levels fluctuating wildly as they decline. So if you do the math, it's entirely possible and not uncommon to enter perimenopause in your mid-30s. Yet time and time again, when women approach their doctors with symptoms or feeling off, even in their 40s, their doctors dismiss them, even though perimenopause is diagnosed with symptoms, not hormonal testing. This is a side note that you need to know. A hormonal test does nothing to diagnose perimenopause because your hormones are fluctuating wildly during this time. It is diagnosed with symptoms, and the list of perimenopause symptoms is huge. So many women, myself included, upon knowing all the symptoms and realizing how early perimenopause can start, have looked back and thought, wow, that weird symptom that I had years ago was most likely due to perimenopause, and I had no idea, nor did my doctor. I do talk about some specific symptoms in later bullet points that I wanted to focus on, but you might be having perimenopausal symptoms right now and not even realize it. I found a stat that said approximately 85% 85% of women experience perimenopausal or menopausal symptoms, whether they recognize them as related or not. You may notice some of the common ones: fatigue, brain fog, insomnia, decreased libido, years before menopause. Your migraines or headaches may change for the better or for the worse. I have friends that were prescribed antidepressants and ADHD medications in their late 30s and early 40s, and later when they were properly treated for perimenopause, they no longer needed those medications. Now, obviously, there are going to be cases when those medications are needed, but this is why being educated about these symptoms is imperative, because if you don't know what's happening and what could be a possible symptom, you can't advocate yourself, which is why we're talking about this today. It's so frustrating to me hearing story after story of women in their mid-30s and up who haven't yet hit menopause, visit their doctors with unexplained symptoms or just feeling off, only to be told that's normal aging, it's fine, or they do a hormone test and the result comes back normal, or even worse, a woman who knows she's in perimenopause because she has distinct symptoms, only to be told she's too young to be in perimenopause. My thoughts or my advice is always the same when this happens. If you're dismissed, don't rely on your doctor for anything beyond your exams. Most practitioners aren't up to date on current information. We're going to talk more about this in a minute, and they can only talk with you about what they know. So they want to do that and move on. Find a knowledgeable menopause care provider who will support you either in person or online, like MIDI Health. Thankfully, these are options we have now. MIDI Health is a virtual care clinic that provides personalized, passionate, high-quality medical care for women. It's accepted by major insurance plans in all 50 states and has currently helped over 200,000 women and counting. They treat a range of issues from perimenopause and menopause to weight gain and more. And after hearing so many rave reviews, I wanted to try them myself. My experience has been fantastic, and I'm beyond thrilled to partner with MIDI today to share how they work, my experience, and how they could possibly help you. So how does it work? First, you enter your general information and choose your health plan or self-pay. They provide transparent pricing. Then you schedule your visit and complete a health questionnaire. Your virtual visit is conducted via video call from the comfort of your own home. My clinician listened so attentively. We discussed all my concerns from perimenopause to weight gain, lifestyle, nutrition, supplementation, and HRT. It felt very thorough yet relaxed at the same time. There was no rush at all. If tests are needed, they arrange all the lab work and send the order to your nearest, most convenient clinic. And through the portal, you can track your results, any visit notes, health notes, and prescriptions. And you can also email and communicate directly with your clinician if you have any questions, which I find really refreshing. The response time is very quick. I'm sure everyone's experience will vary, but I've been impressed so far. I have their estriol face cream on the way to me now. I've been interested in trying this out because topical estrogen can minimize wrinkles and plump skin and improve collagen and skin elasticity. And their formula also has hyaluronic acid for added moisture and DMAE to brighten skin. We also discussed some weight management options I'm thinking about and my current HRT dosage. We'll be communicating back and forth before my follow-up visit that's in about a month, with reminders sent through a text and email. With so many roadblocks to women's care, we need options like MIDI to make it accessible. So if you're looking for compassionate, convenient care for anything related to menopause, perimenopause, or weight gain, click the link below to learn more or to book your first MIDI visit. I did not realize that estrogen is anti-inflammatory. You know how we talked earlier about how estrogen is very volatile and erratic when you're in perimenopause until it declines in menopause. So when you're young, you have this abundance of estrogen and you feel really good, and then it declines, it depletes. So inflammation rises, and chronic inflammation can lead to a host of issues: joint pain, stiffness, even heart disease, and autoimmune flare-ups. Frozen shoulder is so common in middle-aged women, yet even orthopedic surgeons, orthopedic doctors don't associate it with perimenopause and estrogen playing a role due to the inflammation. The tissues in your shoulder tighten and shrink, causing this loss of movement and pain. I had a frozen shoulder when I was, I want to say 38 or 39, and it was terrible. I've known so many people have it, and I don't know a single person who has had a physician associated with perimenopause or estrogen or anything like that until now that we have some menopause specialists letting us know that it is in fact a perimenopause symptom. So there are two ways to manage this inflammation in the body. The first is HRT, hormone replacement therapy. Now there is a stigma around this because of what we know now is incorrect, bad information. If you're not aware of that, we are going to talk about it. But bioidentical hormone replacement therapy helps replace what your body can't produce anymore and can lower inflammation at the source. And there are lifestyle changes. That is the other option. Eating as nutritionally sound as possible, less starchy carbs, less refined sugars, more fiber, more protein, drinking lots of water. There are other ways as well, but those are probably the main two. A symptom I experienced that I never attributed to perimenopause, I didn't even realize I was in perimenopause at the time, is hair thinning. Perimenopause can wreak havoc on your hair in regards to hair loss, thinning, breakage, texture changes. About 50% of women have these kinds of hair issues in perimenopause. It's incredibly common, but not a lot of people really think about why that happens. The reason it's happening is simple. Estrogen promotes hair growth, and when estrogen starts becoming erratic and declining, it affects the hair cycle, making your hair look and feel thinner over time. And hormonal hair loss typically happens at the hairline and on the top of your head, not the sides, which is why so many women feel like their hair is just disappearing. So there are a few things you can do to help if you are having this kind of an issue. I'll just throw out a few suggestions. Some of these I have done myself. Number one is nutrition. Prioritizing proteins, healthy fats, and certain essential vitamins can make a big difference. There are over-the-counter and prescription hair supplements like minoxidil, and I am actually taking right now Viviscal Pro. I've taken Nutrafol and had really nice success. There are red light therapy hats and helmets. I have used the iRestore mask and really liked it, and they have a helmet that I have yet to try, but I know several people that like it. And there's the, where is it? Here it is. The Ladora red light therapy vibrating brush that also helps stimulate the scalp with vibrations, and there are pods in here that have treatment in them. This is an option. And microneedling can help stimulate the scalp and promote new hair growth too. I wish I had realized the importance of strength training and muscle building earlier. I knew this was important early in my life. I used to do a lot of strength training along with cardio when I was, I don't know, in my 20s, and then I kind of tapered off. And I think a lot of us spend a lot of time doing cardio and trying to stay thin for vanity reasons, but estrogen plays a huge role in bone density. So when it declines, we lose bone mass rapidly, which is why osteoporosis and fractures become so common in our later years. So if you prioritized or are prioritizing dieting and staying thin, it might be time to rethink your strategy. Strength training is critical for strengthening your bones and preventing muscle loss as you age. So prioritize lifting weights or using your body weight even, and eating enough protein to support muscle growth and overall strength. I try to aim for at least 100 grams of protein a day, which is actually doable if I break it up somewhat evenly between all my meals. It's never too late, even if you've never strength trained or lifted weights before. You can start now using body weight, even starting with yoga or Pilates. It can make a huge difference with how you feel and function in your later years. We always hear about women over 40 having dry mouth, dry eyes, dry skin. I have always known that hydration is important at any age, but low electrolyte levels are very common for women in midlife, and I think that's something a lot of us aren't aware of. Hormonal fluctuations during perimenopause and menopause makes it harder for our body to regulate electrolytes. And with symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, and heavy periods, fluid imbalances become more common. So maintaining good hydration in these years is even more important than ever because it helps with fluid retention, which happens to a lot of us. It helps with lymphatic detoxification, lymphatic movement, and it can also help with brain fog, muscle cramps, headaches, headaches, heart palpitations, and all of those dry things that I talked about before. And it can also give you more energy and better sleep, which I'm sure we could all use a little extra help with. I try to aim for 8 to 10 glasses a day. I've also been mixing a hydration packet into my water about once a day, which I used to think was something you only needed to do under certain circumstances. But once I started doing this, I started noticing improvement with the dry symptoms I mentioned earlier and just better hydration overall. I think just doing this one simple thing has really helped me. I talked about this in a recent video. These are the ones I use because they have less sodium than Liquid IV and Element, and they're less expensive. I like the flavors. I've bought mine from both Thrive Market and Amazon, so they're easily accessible too. There are obviously other options, but that's been working for me, and electrolytes are vital minerals your body needs so that your muscles and your nerves function properly and your fluid balance is regulated. We lose them even just walking around, sleeping, and functioning day to day. So it is important that they are replenished, especially in midlife when they run low. I had no idea that insomnia and interrupted sleep were perimenopause symptoms. I started experiencing this years before I realized I was in perimenopause. I know I'm not alone in that. I have many friends that experience the same thing, not being able to get to sleep or waking up multiple times during the night or just waking up feeling unrested. And of course, when you don't sleep well, you get hit with that domino effect, fatigue, brain fog. It's harder to stay motivated to work out and eat healthy. It's just a mess all the way around. I know everyone's going to be different with what works for them and fixing their sleep issues. It's definitely a puzzle. For some people, a simple magnesium supplement can help. That did not help with me. I added L-theanine to my magnesium. That also didn't help. I've tried white noise machines, white noise apps. When I first started my HRT journey, I was put on progesterone to see how my body responded to that initially before adding anything else. And we thought maybe that would help with sleep. It didn't help either by itself. It wasn't until I added the estrogen patch, the lowest dose, that I'm finally starting to see some relief. I'm waking up less. I put my Nod pod on to drift off to sleep. I talked about that in a recent video. I think it was underrated products. That does help me drift off to sleep peacefully. It's like a weighted blanket for your eyes. Absolutely love it. And I do wake up less now, so we'll see. It's a journey. I'd love to know what worked for you if something has. But it is important to recognize that insomnia is a perimenopause symptom because you may want to deal with it differently than you would otherwise. We have to talk about ears because my friends and myself have had so many random ear issues, dry, itchy ears, more earwax, tinnitus, hearing loss, you name it, since entering the age one would be in perimenopause, but none of us ever associated this with perimenopause, nor did our doctors. But guess what? There are estrogen receptors in the cells of our ears and in our auditory pathways. So I did some research on some of the more common ear issues women typically talk about in middle age. First, tinnitus, that ringing or buzzing sound in your ears. It turns out that this may be connected to changes in blood flow and how estrogen affects the auditory signals between your ears and your brain. Now, I'm not going to sit here and give you medical advice for how to manage your tinnitus, but it said HRT is an option, regular exercise, and anti-inflammatory diet, and magnesium are all options. I'm sure there are more, and this may not be the cause of yours if you have it, but there may be a link. But what is the deal with the itchy, dry ears? This is something I experienced myself. It's driving me nuts. And now that I know the reason behind it, it makes sense. So estrogen keeps things hydrated. And when estrogen levels drop, it leads to dry mucous membranes in the ear canal, which can cause dryness, itching, burning, even wax buildup and flakiness. I found a few tips that may help you with your dry, itchy ears. I have already started with a couple of these. One is to stay hydrated, which is something I do anyway. We just talked about that. And the other is to use a humidifier, which I only pull out when I'm sick, but it's an option. And they suggested to apply an oil like olive oil, coconut oil, or castor oil. This is one I've been using, Queen of the Thrones. This is just a small bottle. It's a very good, high quality castor oil. I use this on other parts of my body and never thought about swabbing it to my outer ear canal. You could do that daily and a couple of times a week. You could do the same thing with topical estriol cream, and mine is on the way, so I'll try that too. I also shared somewhat recently that I had sudden onset hearing loss happen to me in my right ear. It turns out that as estrogen declines, it can possibly affect the blood flow to the cochlea, which is the part of your ear responsible for hearing, so your hearing can be affected. That obviously requires a pretty urgent doctor visit. It could obviously be caused by something else, but this is just another example of how estrogen can affect things we don't even expect. So yes, your ears can be part of the hormonal puzzle, and as always, staying on top of your hormonal health and having conversations with your doctor or doctors is key. I couldn't do this video and leave out libido and vaginal health. These are huge issues that affect so many women years before they realize they're having hormone and estrogen decline that's leading to this. And when I saw that vaginal and clitoral atrophy happens to 60 to 70% of women, I was floored. Atrophy, leading to loss of sensation, taking longer to O, I'm not sure what I can say here, losing the ability to O completely, dryness, recurrent UTIs, and discomfort during sex. The vaginal lining becomes thinner, drier, and less elastic, so intercourse can be very painful, also because of changes in blood flow and nerve sensitivity. There are things that can help. Using lube can make a big difference. There is a really good one that's moisturizing with hyaluronic acid. I'll have linked below. If dryness and discomfort is severe, you can get estrogen in the form of a suppository or a cream, which is localized, low dose, and really effective. They've also developed red light therapy devices to stimulate blood flow to that area specifically. I think that's a fantastic idea. I'm a huge fan of red light therapy. I'll have one that I know of linked down below. The bottom line is that you don't need to suffer through this. There are solutions to help mitigate the problem, and they're worth looking into to help you feel more like yourself again. I wasn't aware, and I think most people aren't, that most doctors are untrained in menopause. Shockingly, about 80% of doctors receive little to no menopause or perimenopause training because most institutions don't include it as part of their core curriculum, even for OBGYNs. So that means that if doctors want to learn more about it, they have to go out of their way to do it, and most just don't. So as a result, 75% of women who seek care for symptoms are dismissed and receive no treatment. Our symptoms are minimized, or we're gaslit into thinking it's all in our head. But there are studies, there is data out now that you can arm yourself with. So let's talk about this HRT breast cancer controversy that set women back decades. Years ago, for years, women used HRT, hormone replacement therapy, and felt better and lived longer. And then a little over 20 years ago, an NIH researcher announced that HRT caused breast cancer with no data to back it up. It caused an immediate worldwide scare and led to millions and millions of women being denied access to therapy that could have improved their quality of life immensely. And later, the actual data came out and debunked his claim, showing no statistically significant increase in risk. And the study used non-bioidentical HRT, which is not the standard of care. There were other issues with it too, but for some reason, that word still has not gotten out. 80% of doctors and many women still believe this misinformation. There are a lot of menopause specialists, menopause experts on social media trying to spread the word, trying to get the correct information out there. So as it stands, unless you've actually had breast cancer yourself, you are likely a candidate for hormone replacement therapy. Even if you have a family history of breast cancer or stroke, or if you yourself get get migraines with aura like I do. You can use transdermal or topical estrogen. The bottom line is that HRT is an option that replaces what our body can no longer produce and can help you feel better and live longer, which leads into my next point. I wish I had known this sooner, and I wish more people understood the role that estrogen and these other hormones had on our bodies as they decline with age. I had no idea, or maybe I just didn't think about the fact that we had estrogen receptors in every single one of our major organ systems. So when estrogen starts declining, as it does, it affects every single one of them. It affects your heart health, brain function, bone integrity, blood sugar balance, and that's just scratching the surface. Estrogen loss is directly linked to things we just accept as common as we get older. Heart disease, dementia, Alzheimer's, stroke, osteoporosis, to name a few. But these aren't just random aging problems. They're tied to hormone loss. Our bodies literally stop producing these hormones that have been running everything our entire lives. So this is just food for thought with HRT now that you know that old data is not good. Once you start doing your own research, hormone replacement therapy, HRT, isn't about adding something foreign to the body. It's about giving your body something it once had in abundance and it's still wanting. Diabetics take insulin. People with thyroid disease take thyroid medication, but for some reason, estrogen is the one thing people are scared to replace. If you choose hormone replacement, you lower your risk of fractures, your risk of cognitive decline, your arteries stay flexible instead of stiffening, you lessen your chances of incontinence and having to wear diapers, and you reduce your risk of brain plaque buildup as well. It can basically help you lead a full, healthy life, a longer life, instead of just getting by. That's where I stand on it, and you need to make your own informed decision. Because there's still so much misinformation, so much confusion out there, I just wanted to give you my take on it. Do with that whatever you will. Again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just giving you my thoughts. There used to be a stigma around menopause, and nobody really uttered the word perimenopause because it's a natural part of life that women go through. It's something you just didn't talk about with your friends or with generations that followed. You were just expected to suck it up and power through, but we don't have to do that anymore. We should be talking about this and learning from one another. I'm grateful to be going through this phase of life during a time when there are so many empowered educators out there and on social media sharing tons of information. It means you never have to feel alone or dismissed during this part of your journey. So here's to the last half or third of our lives, or wherever you happen to be. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, I would love it if you would give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.